Kate Hardcastle joins me, consumer and retail advisor at the business consultancy company Insight with Passion. Kate, good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Has Sir Philip suffered because he didn't move with the times?
I think it's fair to say that Sir Philip has had that trader mentality of buy a lot cheaply, stack it very high and try and sell it on as big a profit as possible. But I think it would be unfair to the 13,000 employees there to try and suggest that was one man leading one strategy and no one else tried to turn the tide. Certainly the brand has not adapted online as quickly. And by that, we don't mean just an e-commerce website, an opportunity to buy. We mean conversation. We mean getting on the pulse point of a new generation of shopper. There's been an incredible amount of disruption in the marketplace, and that's been both in traditional high streets with brands like Primark and in the e-tail, e-commerce only environment with particularly the Boohoo group that have brands like Pretty Little Thing and Boohoo itself. But it's been a case of underinvestment. I think failure to realise the speed and severity of change. And if I was perhaps to put my take on it, it's literally now that consumers are the tail wagging the dog, and that's the way it's got to be. You cannot trade yourself out of this. This is about emotional intelligence, authenticity, respectful conversations, a nod to ecological and environmental matters. This is so much more sophisticated than retailing used to be.
That's interesting. So you think it's about... instead of getting young people, in particular, not exclusively, obviously, but instead of getting that new audience, so to speak, by telling them what they want and what they need, you follow what they are interested in.
Absolutely. You have to have a conversation with them. And yes, I've had it pushed back to me today saying, well, are they really that bothered about environmental? Because then they'll go and buy an outfit for £10. Surely they understand the supply chain. They're very pick and mix in terms of their ethics. Sometimes it matters incredibly. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Does Sir Philip's own behaviour and the tabloid exclusives over the recent years have some impact on it? Absolutely. When Beyonce was employed or created a partnership with Ivy Park on the Topshop brand of the Arcadia portfolio, there was a great amount of admiration just as the days when Kate Moss was there. When she walked away from that, what did that say? What was the conversation then? This is a matter of absolute critical mass when you are running a retail operation. And it doesn't matter whether you're one of the rental companies, which is a huge wave of organisations coming through to rent the outfits to young people, or you are literally at that value end of the chain trying to get the goods as fast fashion out as quickly as possible. You have to understand the multiple levels of conversation a consumer will have with you.
And just away from his story in particular, and as you rightly point out, those 13,000 people who are employed in those various stores, the high street's changing. It was changing before the pandemic. The pandemic has sent an awful lot of people online to do their shopping. Do you think that has massively speeded up a change that was coming anyway?
To try and put some numbers to it, I think you would be looking at the type of online use for particularly non-essential we were expecting by 2025 in a matter of a few weeks. So it's been significant. I don't think the genie is going back in the bottle either. I don't think we're suddenly going to revert back. What I hope out of this very dangerous opportunity is instead of I would never be critical as a Stuart Rose, but the idea of let's just get anything we can on our high street, I think we need to look at a sophisticated level of change. Consumers want businesses great and small. There's been a flurry of interest back in local and independent, which is great news for our communities. And we need to see that balance back on a high street. But if anyone thinks a high street can just purely hang its hat on retail anymore, then I'm afraid that's a sad understanding of the situation. It's going to be a case of high streets of places to live, places to work, places to be, as well as places to shop. And that's because absolutely we're using online, but
which
also
is,
because we've changed the way we buy.
That's interesting, because that's a very continental thing, isn't it? I used to live in Barcelona and my flat was above, it was on a high street essentially, and it was just, and loads, and families lived there. It wasn't just a student type place. It was whole communities lived above department stores, above shops, above supermarkets, yeah.
And you know, a bit further away, but Melbourne is an example of that. You've got a tennis court next to a children's school, next to a few retail shops, and then a great coffee store, and a lot of them independent. That's what we're looking for. It's not about returning back to small villages and independent. It's not about turning our back on bigger brands. There are great examples of both. It's just really understanding that it's switched. It's absolutely not about you saying, my doors are open at 9 o'clock in the morning till 5:30. I will sell you some stuff. Be grateful the fact you can come through the door and sell. Which to me, as an analyst, when I was very young in my career, I was, classed as a flowery, fluffy one, trying to say, look, I think these consumers actually want to tell you something. You need to start listening
to them. Really interesting talking to you, Kate. Kate Hardcastle, thank you. Kate is a consumer and retail advisor at the business consultancy company Insight with Passion.